The offer stands until Friday, Ranata. After that, my board will initiate a hostile takeover. The choice is yours. Landon Valerius's voice is smooth as polished steel, echoing in the cavernous moonlit lobby of the Onyx Tower. Renata Kensington glares at her rival, her jaw tight with a fury she refuses to show. "Get out of my building, Landon." Landon just smiles, a predatory glint in his eyes. As he turns to leave, his gaze falls on Nate Rowe, who is quietly buffing the marble floors nearby, doing his best to remain invisible. A cruel smirk plays on Landon's lips. He stops and gestures toward Nate with his chin. "Still struggling, perhaps your janitor has some insights," he says, his voice dripping with condescension. He certainly sees the company from the ground up. Renata's eyes flash with anger at the insult, but then a wave of bitter, reckless frustration washes over her. She turns to Nate, her voice laced with mocking sarcasm. "All right, you heard the man. Give me your brilliant financial advice. What's the master plan for Kensington Enterprises?" Nate stops his buffer, the humming motor dying into a deafening silence. He slowly looks up, first at Landon, then directly into Renata's eyes. His expression is unreadable. "Cancel the Cerberus acquisition," he says, his voice steady and clear. "Your offshore holding company isn't firewalled correctly. It's vulnerable to a leveraged buyout clause hidden in the fine print. When you sign that deal on Friday, you won't be buying a company. You'll be handing over a 51% controlling interest in your company for pennies on the dollar." The silence that follows is absolute, a vacuum that sucks the air from the lobby. Landon's smirk dissolves, replaced by a flicker of stunned disbelief, then a flash of pure rage. Renata doesn't move, she doesn't even seem to be breathing. The janitor's words, spoken with the calm authority of a surgeon diagnosing a fatal tumor, have landed like a physical blow. "What kind of insane nonsense is that?" Landon sputters, his voice a harsh rasp. "Have you been sniffing your cleaning chemicals? Renata, this man is clearly unhinged. You should have him fired, better yet, arrested for harassment." But Renata isn't looking at Landon. Her eyes, sharp and analytical, are locked on Nate. She sees no trace of madness in his gaze, only a weary, unshakable certainty. The Cerberus deal was a top-secret defensive maneuver, a poison pill designed to fend off Valerius dynamics. The vulnerability he described, that specific, terrifying clause buried in layers of legalese, was a phantom that haunted her private discussions with her legal team. It was a 1 in a million possibility, a risk she had been assured was contained. "Security," Renata says. Her voice is a low command that cuts through the tension. 2 guards stationed by the entrance immediately step forward. Landon's face twists into a triumphant sneer, assuming they are for Nate. "Escort Mr. Valerius from the premises," Renata continues, her voice like ice. "His presence here is no longer required." Landon's jaw drops. "Renata, you can't be serious. You're going to listen to this nobody." "I am," she says, her gaze never leaving Nate. "Now leave." The guards flank Landon, their expressions impassive. He glares at Nate, his eyes burning with a look of pure hatred, a look that promises retribution. Then, with a final disgusted scoff, he allows himself to be led out. The glass doors hiss shut behind him. The lobby is silent again, but the atmosphere has changed. Nate stands frozen, the handle of the floor buffer suddenly feeling slick in his sweaty palm. He just broke the single most important rule of his new life: be invisible. He has been seen. He has spoken, and in doing so, he may have just destroyed everything. "You," Renata says, pointing a single sharp finger at him. "With me, now." She turns on her heel and strides toward her private elevator, not waiting to see if he follows. Nate's heart hammers against his ribs. This is it, the end. He'll be fired, and with no job, there's no money for Lily's medication. The thought sends a jolt of pure terror through him. He abandons his buffer and walks on numb legs, following the most powerful woman in the city into the lion's den. The ride up to the 80th floor penthouse office is unnervingly silent. Nate stands in the corner of the glass elevator, watching the city lights spread out below like a fallen constellation. It's a world he used to belong to, a world he once understood. Now he feels like an alien visiting a planet he was exiled from. The doors open directly into her office. It's a vast minimalist space dominated by a single massive desk of black marble and a floor-to-ceiling window that offers a god's-eye view of the metropolis. There are no family photos, no personal trinkets, just power distilled into glass, steel, and silence. Renata walks to her desk but doesn't sit. She turns to face him, her arms crossed, her expression a mask of controlled intensity. "Who are you?" she demands. It's not a question, it's an accusation. "Nate Rowe," he says, his voice barely a whisper. "Night shift maintenance." Don't play games with me, she snaps. There are 3 people in the world who know about the leverage clause in the Cerberus contract, me, my chief counsel, and the snake I just had thrown out of my lobby. So I'll ask you again, who are you and how do you know about my deal? Nate's mind races. The truth is a weapon that could destroy him. He can't tell her who he was. He can't mention Landon's name in any context other than the one she already knows. He has to stick to the data. I read things, he says, the answer deliberately vague. Public filings, market analyses. Sometimes you see patterns that other people miss. Patterns, she scoffs, circling him like a shark. You're telling me you deduced a fatal flaw in a multi-billion-dollar private acquisition from reading public documents. You think I'm a fool. No, Nate says, meeting her gaze. I think you're in trouble. That clause wasn't an accident. It's a trap. It was designed to look like a standard indemnity provision, but the legal language is deliberately ambiguous. It's triggered by the transfer of offshore assets, which is the entire basis of the deal. The moment you sign, Valerius files an injunction, and his lawyers will argue that the clause gives them the right to acquire your shares at a predetermined, catastrophically low price. He's not trying to take your company, he's trying to steal it. Renata stops pacing. She stares at him, her mind visibly processing the information. He didn't just identify the problem. He had just described the exact predatory mechanism of the trap, a scenario her own legal team had dismissed as paranoid fantasy. She walks to her desk and leans against it, her expression unreadable. For a long, agonizing minute, she says nothing. Nate can hear the frantic beat of his own heart. Finally, she speaks, her voice dangerously quiet. I am in a war, Mr. Rowe, and I am losing. My company is being systematically attacked, and I have a traitor on my board feeding Valerius information. The Cerberus deal was supposed to be my last line of defense. Now you're telling me it's a guillotine. She pushes off the desk and walks toward him until she is standing just a few feet away. Her eyes are like chips of granite. I don't know if you're a spy, a ghost, or some kind of savant. Frankly, I don't care. Right now, you are the only person who has given me a piece of the truth, so here's the deal. She holds up 2 fingers. 48 hours, that's what you have. I want irrefutable proof that Landon Valerius engineered this trap. I want to know who my traitor is, and I want to know how to turn this entire thing around and destroy him with it. Nate stares at her, speechless. You want me to investigate your company? I want you to save it, she corrects him. You'll have my personal authority, full access to any data, any personnel, any resource you need. No one will question you. She leans in closer, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. If you succeed, you can write your own check, name your price. But if you fail, if you're wasting my time, or if this is some elaborate trick, I will personally see to it that you spend the rest of your life in a federal prison. Do we have an understanding? Nate thinks of Lily, her pale face, her quiet strength, the little bottle of pills on their kitchen counter that gets emptier every day. This is madness. It's a suicide mission, but it's also the only lifeline he's been thrown in 6 years. He takes a deep breath, the ghost of his former self rising from the ashes. Yes, Miss Kensington, he says, his voice finding a strength he thought was long gone. We have an understanding. The air in the office crackles with the weight of Nate's acceptance. Renata gives a single sharp nod. The decision made, the time for deliberation is over. She strides to her desk and presses a button on a sleek intercom. Karen, she says, her voice crisp, clear my schedule for the next 48 hours, all calls, all meetings. Then I need you to issue a new security credential, Alpha Prime clearance, for Mr. Nathaniel Rowe. He is to have unrestricted access to all Kensington Network's databases and facilities, effective immediately. He will be operating under my direct authority. There will be no questions and no delays. Is that understood? A calm, professional voice replies from the speaker. Understood, Miss Kensington. Is there anything else? Yes, prepare the auxiliary strategy suite on this floor and send up a new inbox secure mainframe laptop. Now. Right away, Miss Kensington. Renata switches off the intercom and looks at Nate. The transformation has begun. He is no longer a janitor. He is a ghost in her machine, a weapon she is aiming at the heart of her enemy. The strategy suite is across the hall, she says, gesturing toward the door. It's small, soundproof, and has a direct fiber line to our servers. You'll work from there. The laptop will have everything you need to start. My personal cell number will be on the desktop. You report only to me. Nate can only nod, his mind reeling. Alpha Prime clearance, strategy suite. He has gone from mopping floors to the company's inner sanctum in less than 15 minutes. A woman, Karen, with a severe haircut and an efficient demeanor arrives moments later. She hands Nate a heavy black laptop and a stark white keycard with no name, only a gold chip. She doesn't meet his eyes, her professionalism a mask for what is clearly burning curiosity. Renata leads him across the hall to a door that looks like a simple closet. She presses her thumb to a scanner and it clicks open, revealing a small glass-walled room. Inside is a minimalist desk, a high-backed chair, and a single wall-sized monitor currently dark, a fishbowl. He is on display for the entire executive floor to see. Go, Renata says simply. The clock is ticking. Nate steps inside. The door closes with a soft, definitive click behind him. He is alone. He places the laptop on the cool surface of the desk and opens it. It boots instantly to a simple, secure desktop. A single icon sits in the center, Kensington Archive. He takes a deep breath. The familiar scent of new electronics is a ghost of his former life. His fingers, calloused from pushing a mop bucket, find the keyboard. The muscle memory is still there. He clicks the icon and a login screen appears. He swipes his new card. Access granted. The entire digital soul of Kensington Enterprises opens up before him. Financial records, internal emails, acquisition proposals, personnel files. It is an ocean of data. He knows he can't look for the traitor first. He has to prove the trap. He has to find the poison pill in the Cerberus deal. He navigates to the secure folder labeled Acquisitions. He opens the primary contract file, a document over 1,000 pages long. He doesn't read it. He goes straight for the metadata, the history of revisions. He sees the logs of Renata's legal team, the back-and-forth negotiations, and then he sees it, an external revision, a file uploaded from an IP address outside the Kensington network. It was masked, routed through a proxy in the Cayman Islands, but the timestamp is there, 2 weeks ago at 3:14 a.m. He tries to access the raw upload packet to trace its true origin. Access denied. He frowns. Alpha Prime clearance should have let him in. He tries again. Blocked. Someone has put a secondary, non-standard encryption layer on that specific file. A digital deadbolt. It is a move of extreme paranoia or extreme cunning. It is Landon's signature. Nate's mind races. He can't break the encryption from the front. He needs to find a back door. He starts mapping the network architecture, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He isn't just looking at the official schematic. He is looking for the flaws, the old forgotten pathways. As the minutes bleed into an hour, his focus is absolute. The world outside the glass walls fades away. The janitor is gone. The analyst has taken over. But then a sharp vibration in his pocket shatters his concentration. His phone, a picture of Lily smiling with a gap in her teeth, lights up the screen. His heart seizes. He's been in this glass cage for over 2 hours. He had forgotten to call. He answers, his voice instantly softening. Hey, sweet pea, I'm so sorry. I got held up at work. It's okay, Daddy, Lily's voice comes through, small and tired. Mrs. Gable next door brought me some soup. Are you coming home soon? I can't tonight, Lily Pad, he says, the words feeling like shards of glass in his throat. I have to work a really long shift, a special project, but I'll be home as soon as I can, I promise. Okay, she says, her disappointment a palpable thing even over the phone. Don't forget to check on my bottle. I won't, he says, his stomach twisting. He glances at the small clear plastic bag he keeps in his wallet. Inside are Lily's pills. He counts them again, though he already knows the number. 4, 2 for the morning, 2 for the evening, enough for 2 days. The 48-hour clock isn't just for Renata, it is for Lily. I love you, Daddy. I love you more, sweet pea, be good, I'll call you in the morning. He hangs up, the silence of the room rushes back in, heavier than before. He looks at the encrypted file on the screen, his resolve hardening into steel. Landon isn't just a rival in a corporate game anymore. He is the man standing between his daughter and the medicine she needs to live. He turns his attention back to the network map. If Landon firewalled the data, he must have a way to access it himself. Nate begins searching not for the file, but for the key. He starts cross-referencing server access logs with the timestamp of the upload. Who else was logged into the network at 3:14 a.m. 2 weeks ago? He finds a match, a single user, not a person. It is an automated account associated with the building's HVAC and environmental systems. It is a ghost account, a relic from an old system upgrade, something no one would ever monitor. It had accessed the network for exactly 2 minutes, uploaded the file, and then logged off. The traitor hadn't just given Landon information. They had given him a key, a way to get inside the castle walls disguised as the air conditioning. Nate starts digging into the HVAC account's permissions. They are minimal except for one glaring anomaly. It has read-write access to a single obscure directory on the finance server, a folder labeled Archived Audits Q2 2018. It makes no sense. Why would an air conditioning unit need access to financial records from years ago? He opens the folder. It is full of thousands of old, boring audit reports, useless data, a digital junkyard. But Nate isn't looking at the files themselves. He is looking at the negative space. He sorts the directory not by name but by data size. Most of the files are small, between 100 and 200 kilobytes, but one of them is different. It is 150 megabytes. An audit file shouldn't be that big. It is a whale hiding in a school of minnows. His heart begins to pound. He opens the file. It isn't an audit report. It is a compressed encrypted data packet, a Trojan horse hidden in plain sight. He runs a decryption algorithm. It takes 10 agonizing minutes, the progress bar on the screen crawling forward. Then it is done. A folder opens containing a single item, a video file. He clicks play. Wall-sized monitor flickers to life. It shows a grainy, covertly recorded video of a man sitting in a dimly lit office, his back mostly to the camera. He is talking to someone on a speakerphone. Nate recognizes the voice on the phone instantly. It is Landon, and the man in the chair, the one whose face is hidden in shadow, Nate recognizes his silhouette. He recognizes the expensive watch on his wrist. It is Arthur Clemens, Renata's mentor, the most trusted and senior member of her board. Nate stares at the screen, a cold dread washing over him. The problem isn't just a traitor. The traitor is the man Renata trusted most in the world, and the trap isn't just for her company, it is for her personally. Nate's blood runs cold. He feels a dizzying sense of vertigo, as if the floor of the 80th story tower has just fallen away. Arthur Clemens, he'd seen the man's portrait in the lobby, a silver-haired patriarch smiling benevolently, displayed next to Renata's own father. The plaque underneath read, a titan of industry, a mentor, a friend. And here he was on a secret recording, calmly selling out the woman who considered him family. Nate forces himself to focus, his analytical mind kicking in to suppress the wave of shock. He rewinds the video, turning up the volume. The audio is slightly muffled but clear enough. The final transfer will be made to the holding account in Zurich once the acquisition is signed, Landon's voice says through the speakerphone. Are you certain she won't get cold feet? Arthur Clemens shifts in his chair, his face still in shadow. Renata is proud. She sees this Cerberus deal as her own brilliant move, a way to finally step out of her father's shadow. She won't back down, her pride won't let her. And the board is mine, Clemens says, a chilling lack of emotion in his voice. They trust me. When the time comes, I will advise them that a buyout by your company is the only logical step to save their investment from Renata's reckless maneuver. They will vote with me. Perfect, Landon purrs. Her legacy, my company, and your very comfortable retirement. It's almost poetic. Nate's hands clench into fists. It is all there. The motive, the method, the sheer breathtaking arrogance of the betrayal. This isn't just business. This is patricide, a deliberate, calculated destruction of a legacy by the man entrusted to protect it. His first instinct is to save the file. He knows how this works. A digital footprint like this is a liability. Once Landon or Clemens suspects a breach, this video will be remotely wiped in seconds. He quickly copies the file onto an encrypted partition on the laptop's hard drive, then creates a second backup on a microSD card he finds in one of the desk drawers. He slips the tiny card into the hidden pocket of his wallet, right next to the baggie with Lily's last 4 pills. Evidence and motivation side by side. Now comes the harder question: how can he possibly show this to Renata? He pictures walking up to her and saying, "The man you see as a second father is conspiring to destroy you." She might shatter. She might lash out, accuse him of forging the evidence. A betrayal this deep defies logic. It is an emotional wound, and presenting it clinically could be disastrous. He needs more. He needs cold, hard data to back up the video. He has to build a case so airtight, so irrefutable, that her mind will be forced to accept the truth before her heart has a chance to reject it. He turns his attention back to the data streams. The video gives him everything he needs. Keywords: Zurich holding account, Clemens. He begins a new targeted search, no longer a blind hunt, but a surgical strike. He dives into the encrypted international transaction logs for the past 6 months. Hours melt away. The sky outside the window begins to lighten from inky black to a bruised purple, then a pale hazy gray. The city is waking up, but Nate hasn't slept. Fueled by stale coffee from a machine Karen left outside his door and the raw burning anger in his gut, he works. He finds the trail. It is brilliant in its subtlety. A series of small authorized payments from Kensington's international division to a dozen different shell corporations for consulting services. From there, the money is bundled and rerouted, washed clean through a labyrinth of accounts until it all trickles into a single heavily encrypted holding account in Zurich. The account is registered to a shell entity named Argus Holdings. Nate runs a search on Argus Holdings. It is a dead end, completely anonymous, but he doesn't need to see the name on the account. He has the video. He now has the entire financial architecture of the betrayal mapped out. Just as he is documenting the final transaction path, a movement in the hallway catches his eye. Arthur Clemens is walking past his glass-walled office, a cup of coffee in hand, a paternal smile on his face as he greets another executive. He pauses for a moment, his gaze landing on the fishbowl office. He sees Nate inside, hunched over the laptop, a janitor oddly out of place. Their eyes meet through the glass. Clemens's smile doesn't falter. He gives Nate a small, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture of condescending acknowledgement, the kind a king might give to a stable boy. Then he continues down the hall, disappearing into his own magnificent corner office. Nate feels a chill crawl up his spine. The old man has no idea. He is looking at his own executioner and doesn't even know it. The casual arrogance of it, the absolute certainty that he is untouchable, solidifies Nate's resolve. He can't wait, he can't risk letting Clemens or Landon get suspicious. He looks at the clock on the monitor. 7:15 a.m., the 48-hour clock is a third of the way down. He spends the next hour compiling his findings into a single secure file. He starts with a simple flowchart showing the money trail from Kensington Enterprises to Argus Holdings. He attaches the transaction logs, the server data, the proof of the HVAC backdoor, and at the very bottom he embeds the video file, the final devastating piece of the puzzle. He looks at the finished package. It is a digital bomb. He picks up the desk phone, the direct line to the CEO's office. He knows this call will change everything. It will shatter Ranada's world, and it will either be the beginning of his salvation or the act that seals his fate. He takes a breath and dials. She answers on the first ring, her voice alert and sharp as if she hasn't slept either. "What have you got?" Nate's own voice is low and steady, belying the storm raging inside him. "I have it, all of it, the traitor, the mechanism, the proof." He pauses, choosing his next words carefully. "But you need to see this in person and you need to prepare yourself. This is worse than you imagined." A heavy silence hangs on the line for a beat. Then Renata's voice comes back, devoid of all emotion. "My office, 5 minutes." The line goes dead. Nate gathers the laptop, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He takes the microSD card from his wallet and tapes it securely to the inside of his belt, a paranoid reflex from a life he thought he'd left behind. Never walk into a meeting without an insurance policy. He steps out of the glass-walled office and walks the short distance to the CEO's suite. The curious eyes of the early morning executives follow his every move. He is no longer just an anomaly. He is a man about to meet with the Queen, and everyone knows a verdict is coming. Karen, Renata's assistant, stands guard outside the office door. Her professional mask is firmly in place, but her eyes betray a flicker of intense curiosity as she opens the door for him without a word. Renata is standing by the massive window, a silhouette against the bright morning sun flooding the city. She doesn't turn as he enters. "Show me," she commands, her voice flat. Nate walks to the conference table at the center of the room and connects the laptop to the large monitor on the wall. He doesn't start with the video. He has to build the cage before he reveals the monster. The vulnerability in the Cerberus deal is intentional. Nate begins, his voice calm and even. He brings up the flowchart he created. It's part of a two-pronged attack. The first prong is financial. He walks her through the labyrinth of transactions, his words precise and clinical. He shows her the money flowing out of her company, washed through shell corporations and deposited into the Zurich account. He points out the specific accounting loopholes that were exploited, the digital backdoors that were used. He speaks the language of his past, a language of numbers, patterns, and deceit. Renata watches, her expression unreadable, her posture rigid. She processes the complex data with terrifying speed, her sharp mind absorbing every detail. She is a general seeing the enemy's battle plans for the first time. "This is a masterpiece of fraud," she says, her voice a low growl. "Subtle, patient, nearly invisible, but it's just money. The real attack is the Cerberus clause, that's the kill shot." "Exactly," Nate agrees. "The money trail is the payment for the information that made the kill shot possible. The intel had to come from someone on the inside, someone with access to everything, someone you trust." Renata finally turns from the window, her eyes boring into him. "You said you knew who. Who is Argus Holdings? Who is my traitor?" "This is the moment." Nate takes a slow breath. "The name on the account is a shell," he says softly, "but I didn't need a name, I found his confession." He minimizes the spreadsheets. The screen goes black for a second. His hand hovers over the video file. What you're about to see, he starts, then trails off. There is no way to soften this. He simply clicks play. The grainy covert video fills the screen. The sound of Landon Valerius's voice, smug and triumphant, fills the silent office, followed by the calm, measured tones of Arthur Clemens. Nate doesn't watch the video, he watches Renata. For the first few seconds, her expression is one of confusion. Then, as she recognizes the voice, her mask of command doesn't just crack, it disintegrates. The color drains from her face, leaving her skin as pale as the marble on her desk. A subtle, almost imperceptible tremor starts in her left hand. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, are glued to the screen, her body utterly still, as if a single movement would shatter her into a million pieces. She listens to the man she called her mentor, the man who had stood by her father's side for 30 years, calmly and methodically outlining her destruction. She hears him call her proud, reckless. She hears him conspire to steal her father's legacy. Each word is a fresh cut, dismantling the foundations of her world. When the video ends, the screen goes black, but the silence it leaves behind is deafening. Renata stands frozen for a full minute, her gaze fixed on the blank monitor, seeing nothing. Nate doesn't speak. He doesn't move. He just waits, giving her the space to navigate the wreckage of her trust. Finally, she blinks once, twice. She takes a ragged breath, the first sign that she is returning to her body. Her hand, which had been trembling, clenches into a tight, white-knuckled fist. The shock in her eyes is slowly being replaced by something else, something harder, colder, a burning diamond-hard rage. She turns her head slowly, her eyes meeting Nate's. The vulnerability is gone, locked away behind a wall of pure steel. "That snake," she whispers, her voice rough with a pain so deep it is almost soundless. "That ungrateful, treacherous snake." She walks to her desk, her movement stiff, and pours a glass of water from a crystal carafe. She drinks it in one long, steady swallow. When she sets the glass down, the sound is the only thing that breaks the silence. "For 30 years he ate at my father's table," she says, more to herself than to Nate. "He held me in his arms at my father's funeral and swore he would help me protect his legacy." She looks at Nate, a new dangerous light in her eyes, and all this time he's been planning to burn it to the ground. She walks back to the monitor, her focus absolute. The victim is gone, the CEO is back. This isn't just about the company anymore. This is personal. He didn't just betray me. He betrayed my father. He betrayed his memory. She looks from the dark screen to Nate, and for the first time, he isn't just an asset or an anomaly. He is the only person in the room she knows for certain she can trust. The dynamic between them has irrevocably shifted. "They set a trap for me, Nate," she says, his first name sounding strange and yet perfectly natural on her lips. "Landon and Arthur. They expect me to walk into it on Friday like a lamb to the slaughter." Her lips curve into a smile that holds no warmth, only the promise of retribution. "What do we do now?" she asks, her voice low and lethal. "How do we burn them to the ground?" Nate has been waiting for this question. He has been thinking about it all night. Revenge isn't enough. It has to be poetic. It has to be complete. "They've handed us the weapon," Nate says, his own voice hardening. "The Cerberus contract. We don't cancel the deal. We don't run from the trap." He steps closer to the monitor, a plan crystallizing in his mind, bold and terrifyingly risky. "We let them spring it, but when the jaws snap shut, we make sure they're the ones caught inside." A dangerous light flickers in Renata's eyes. The shock has burned away, leaving behind the cold, clear focus of a predator. "Tell me," she says, her voice a low command. Nate steps closer, the adrenaline sharpening his thoughts into a fine point. "Landon and Arthur's trap is perfect," he begins. "But it has one weakness, their arrogance. They believe you're reacting to a business threat, so they're prepared for a business move. They expect you to cancel the deal, try to renegotiate, or even sue. What they don't expect is for you to knowingly sign their doctored contract." "Because it would be suicide," Renata counters. "Only if it's their contract," Nate says. "We need to amend it. We add our own clause, a reciprocal poison pill, something buried so deep in the legalese that a man convinced of his own genius won't bother to read it." He starts pacing, the ghost of his old life taking over completely. "The clause will state that if the leveraged buyout provision is triggered under circumstances deemed to be fraudulent or conspiratorial by an independent arbiter, then the contract is not only void, but all assets of the initiating party, Valerius Dynamics, used as collateral for the attempt are forfeited to Kensington Enterprises as liquidated damages." Renata's eyes widen as she grasps the sheer audacity of the plan. "You want to use their trap to bankrupt them." "I want to use their trap to annihilate them," Nate corrects her. "Landon used a hidden clause to steal my life's work. It's time we return the favor." A slow, wolfish grin spreads across Renata's face. It is the first genuine smile Nate has seen from her, and it is terrifying. I like it, she says. It's vicious, poetic, but it's impossible. My chief counsel Robert would have to draft it. He's loyal, but he's part of the system Arthur controls. The moment we ask him to write a clause like that, Arthur will know something is wrong. Then we don't use Robert, Nate says. Renata pauses, considering. A look of resolve settles on her face. She walks to her desk and picks up her personal phone, scrolling through the contacts. There's one person, she says, more to herself than to him. She's the only one my father trusted implicitly. She's retired, but she would burn down the world for my family. She presses the call button. Evelyn, she says, her voice changing, losing some of its hard edge and taking on a tone of respect and warmth. It's Renata, I'm fine. Yes, listen, I need you here in my office. It's an emergency of the highest order. No, I can't explain over the phone. Just please, Evelyn, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. While she is on the phone, Nate's own phone vibrates. It is a text from his neighbor, Mrs. Gable. Hi, Nate. Lily seems a bit warm, says her head hurts. Just wanted to let you know. Nate's blood turns to ice. A fever for Lily isn't simple. It is a warning sign that her system is fighting something it can't handle, a prelude to the episodes of debilitating pain that leave her bedridden. The 4 pills in his wallet suddenly feel like 4 grains of sand. He needs to solve this. He needs the money Renata promised. He needs it now. He is texting back a reply when Renata hangs up. She sees the look on his face, the sudden shift from master strategist to terrified father. What is it? She asks, her voice sharp but not unkind. My daughter, Nate says, his own voice strained. She's not well. I can send my personal physician, Renata offers immediately. He's the best in the city. He can be at your apartment in 30 minutes. Nate is floored by the offer, but he shakes his head. No, thank you, but no, I don't want her involved in this. I need to check on her. He calls Lily's phone. Mrs. Gable answers. He can hear Lily's weak cry in the background. His heart shatters. It's just a small fever, dear, Mrs. Gable says kindly, but she's asking for you. I know, Nate says, closing his eyes, trying to project a calm he doesn't feel. Can you give her one of the pills from the bottle on the counter? Just one, and make sure she drinks plenty of water. I'll be home as soon as I can. He ends the call feeling completely helpless. He's standing in a room worth more than he could make in 1,000 lifetimes, planning a corporate counterattack while his daughter is sick and scared miles away. She'll be here in an hour, Renata says softly, bringing him back to the present. She had overheard, and for a moment the billionaire CEO is gone, replaced by a woman who understands the look of fear in his eyes. The alliance between them deepens in that silent moment of shared humanity. An hour later, Evelyn Reed walks in. She is a woman in her late 60s with piercing blue eyes, a razor-sharp haircut, and a presence that seems to take up all the oxygen in the room. She greets Renata with a warm but concerned hug, then turns her analytical gaze on Nate. Renata makes the introductions. Evelyn, this is Nate Rowe. He is the man who is going to help us save this company. Nate, this is Evelyn Reed. She's the woman who is going to give us the ammunition. For the next 2 hours, the 3 of them become a war council. Nate plays the video. Evelyn's reaction is a quiet, seething fury. Arthur, she breathes, shaking her head, after all these years. But her anger quickly gives way to a lawyer's focus. Nate lays out the financial trap, and Evelyn immediately begins to formulate the legal counterstrike. He's right, Evelyn says, her eyes gleaming with intellectual fire. The beauty of Landon's clause is its ambiguity. We'll use that. We'll draft a reciprocal indemnity clause. We'll wrap it in standard boilerplate about third-party arbitration and regulatory compliance. It will look like a tedious but necessary bit of housekeeping from our side. Arthur will push it through without a second glance. He's a financier, not a contract lawyer. He won't see the fangs until they're in his throat. They work, a seamless trio of finance, law, and strategy. Evelyn dictates the precise lethal language. Nate pressure tests it, ensuring it is a perfect mirror of Landon's trap. Renata provides the ruthless oversight, trimming every unnecessary word, making it as lean and deadly as possible. By noon it is done, a single page dense with text. It looks completely innocuous. It is the most dangerous document Nate has ever seen. Evelyn prints it out. There, she says with grim satisfaction, the Trojan horse. Renata takes the document, her expression cold and determined. The clock on her wall shows 12:15 p.m. Time is slipping away. Arthur is meeting Landon for lunch at 1:30 tomorrow, Renata says, her gaze shifting to Nate. It's their final confirmation before the signing on Friday. We have less than 24 hours to make sure Arthur walks into that lunch with this piece of paper in his briefcase, believing it's his own idea. The question hangs in the air, heavy and sharp. How do you convince a master manipulator to willingly carry his own death warrant to a meeting? We can't push, Nate says, his mind already piecing together the strategy. If we approach him with an amendment, he'll be suspicious. The change has to come from him. He has to think it's his idea to protect the plan. Renata leans forward, her eyes narrowing. Exploit his arrogance, make him think he's outsmarting me. Exactly, Nate confirms. We create a fire and then we hand him the exact extinguisher we want him to use. We're going to leak a piece of information to him. We're going to make him believe that a different, much more obvious flaw has been discovered in the contract, a red herring. Evelyn catches on immediately, a slow, predatory smile forming on her lips. We stage a panic, make him think Renata's team has finally found a loophole and is about to scuttle the deal. He'll swoop in to play the hero and fix the problem, keeping his timeline intact. He'll find it, Nate says with certainty. He's a spy in his own house. He's looking for whispers and secrets. He won't be able to resist. And when he comes to me to warn me about this flaw, Renata asks. You play the part, Nate instructs. You're panicked, furious at your legal team for missing it. You're on the verge of calling Landon to postpone everything. Arthur can't let that happen. It would derail his entire scheme. He'll demand a solution, an immediate one. And that solution, Evelyn finishes, tapping the single deadly page they drafted, will be this. I'll be the outside consultant you brought in to handle the crisis. I'll present this as the simplest, cleanest way to patch the hole. The trap is set. For the rest of the day, a silent, tense energy fills the 81st floor. Nate drafts the fake memo, filling it with dense, terrifying-sounding, but ultimately hollow legal jargon. At precisely 4:00 p.m., Renata walks through the executive lounge, sits for 2 minutes with a cup of tea, and walks out, leaving the document behind as if she'd forgotten it in her haste. They watch from her office using a discreet security camera feed. 20 minutes later, Arthur Clemens strolls through. He pours himself a drink, his eyes casually sweeping the room. They see him spot the file, a flicker of interest. He glances around, then casually picks it up, tucking it into his own leather-bound folder. He has taken the bait. The rest of the evening is a long, agonizing wait. Nate tries to work to trace other connections, but his mind is elsewhere. He thinks of Lily, hoping the single pill is enough to keep the fever at bay. The silence is finally broken at 9:00 a.m. the next morning. Karen's voice comes over Renata's intercom. Mr. Clemens is here. He says it's urgent. Send him in, Renata says, her voice a perfect imitation of strained anxiety. Arthur enters, his face a mask of grave concern. He holds up the fake memo. Renata, we have a serious problem. The performance begins. Renata feigns shock, then fury. She slams her hand on her desk. She berates her absent legal team. She speaks of canceling the signing. Nate, playing the role of a junior analyst, stands silently in the corner of the room, looking terrified. No, that's too drastic, Arthur says, his voice calm and reassuring, exactly as Nate had predicted. Panicking is what Valerius wants. We simply need to close this loophole. A minor amendment should suffice. There's no time, Renata snaps. The signing is tomorrow. There's always time for a solution, Arthur says smoothly. At that moment, as if on cue, Karen announces the arrival of Evelyn Reed. Evelyn enters all business. She listens as Renata and Arthur explain the problem. She reviews the fake memo, frowning with concentration. Nate watches Arthur. The old man is completely absorbed in his role as the steady hand, the wise counselor calming the hysterical woman. He has no idea he is a puppet in a play written for him. The analyst is correct, Evelyn says, nodding at Nate. This is a nasty little snag, but Arthur's right, it's fixable. She pulls a single page from her briefcase. I took the liberty of drafting some standard indemnity language that should resolve the EU regulatory conflict. It's boilerplate really, but it's clean and bypasses the entire issue. It strengthens our position. She hands the page to Arthur. It is their Trojan horse. Arthur reads it over. Nate holds his breath. He sees the old man's eyes skim the dense paragraphs. He is looking for phrases about canceling the deal or changing payment terms. He isn't looking for a reciprocal liability clause wrapped in the language of regulatory compliance. He sees only what he wants to see, a quick, elegant solution that keeps his plan on schedule. This looks perfectly adequate, Arthur announces, his relief palpable. He is proud of himself. In fact, it's excellent, simple, clean. He turns to Renata. Let me handle this. I'm meeting Landon for lunch. I'll present this as a final minor revision from our side, a formality. He'll sign off on it without a thought. He places the page into his briefcase, snapping it shut with a satisfying click. He has just locked away the weapon of his own destruction. After he leaves, the three of them stand in silence, the residual tension slowly draining from the room. It has worked perfectly. Renata sinks into her chair, a long, ragged breath escaping her lips. She looks at Nate, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. You were a ghost mopping my floors just 2 days ago, she says, her voice quiet. Now you're the one pulling the strings of the most powerful men in this city. The compliment doesn't land. Nate's phone vibrates with another text from Mrs. Gable. Fever is a little higher. She's asking for you again. He pulls out his wallet and stares at the remaining 3 pills. The victory feels hollow, a distant thing. The real world, the one that matters, is miles away and slipping through his fingers. He looks up at the billionaire CEO, the weight of his reality pressing down on him. I'm just a father, he says, his voice barely a whisper, trying to buy his daughter more time. The air in Renata's office is thick with a tense, controlled silence. They're a command center now, the 3 of them, Nate, Renata, and Evelyn, watching a small, discreet tablet on the conference table. On the screen is a live audio feed represented by a simple fluctuating waveform. A high-risk surveillance operation orchestrated by Renata's head of security is underway. A tiny microphone disguised as a cufflink on a trusted waiter's uniform is their only ear into the most important lunch meeting in the city. They listen to the clink of silverware, the murmur of the restaurant waiting. Arthur seems to be enjoying his lobster, Evelyn remarks dryly, trying to cut the tension. Nate isn't listening to the small talk. He is trying to push the image of Lily's pale face out of his mind. Every minute that crawls by is a minute he isn't with her. He trusts Mrs. Gable, but trust can't break a fever. Just then his phone rings, a shrill, piercing sound that makes all 3 of them jump. The caller ID reads Northwood Elementary. His heart plummets. It is the school nurse. Mr. Rowe, a concerned voice says, it's Sharon at Northwood. Lily's fever has spiked quite high. She's a bit disoriented and she's asking for you. I think you need to come get her. The world narrows to the sound of that voice. The billion-dollar deals, the corporate espionage, it all evaporates. His daughter is sick and scared and he isn't there. I'm on my way, he says, his voice thick. He is already standing, grabbing his jacket, his mind a chaotic whirl of logistics. He could take a cab, get to her in 30 minutes, but then what? He can't afford an emergency room visit, not without insurance. Nate, Renata's voice cuts through his panic. She's standing now too. Go, we'll handle this. He looks from the tablet, the mission he is so close to completing, to the door. He is torn. He is the only one who truly understands Landon's mindset, the only one who would know for sure if he is taking the bait. I can't, he says, the words tasting like ash. We need to hear this. Renata looks at the raw agony on his face, at the impossible choice tearing him apart. A decision clicks into place behind her steel blue eyes. She picks up her personal phone and dials. Dr. Alistair, it's Renata Kensington. I have an emergency. I need your best pediatric team, not just you, the whole team. Mobile diagnostic unit, everything. I'm sending you an address. I want you there in 20 minutes. No, it's not for me. It's for the daughter of the most important person in my company. Spare no expense. She hangs up and looks directly at Nate. Her voice is firm, leaving no room for argument. My medical team is on their way to your apartment. They will take care of her. They will have everything she needs. Let me handle this, Nate. You and I, we have a different battle to fight right now. Let me fight for your daughter so you can fight for us. Tears prick at the corners of Nate's eyes. For 6 years he has been utterly alone, fighting for Lily with nothing but his own 2 hands. Now, in the most unlikely of circumstances, this formidable, powerful woman is using her empire to protect his daughter. Thank you, he whispers, the words inadequate. We're partners now, she says simply. We take care of our own. As if on cue, the audio feed from the tablet crackles to life. Arthur's voice, smooth and avuncular, comes through clearly. A minor bit of housekeeping, Landon. Renata's lawyers are in a panic over some EU regulation. This just cleans it up. A formality, really. There's a pause. Nate, Renata, and Evelyn all lean in, holding their breath. They hear the rustle of paper. Landon's laugh, arrogant and dismissive, fills the speaker. Her lawyers are panicking. Good, let them. Honestly, Arthur, I'm surprised she hasn't cracked completely. Fine. Whatever it takes to get her to sign on Friday. Have her people add it to the final draft. A collective silent sigh of relief goes through the room. He'd taken it, the hook, the line, the sinker, the trap is set. They are about to switch off the feed when Landon's voice comes through again, lower this time, more conspiratorial. She's so focused on Cerberus, she's completely forgotten about her real vulnerability. Even if something goes wrong with this deal, which it won't, the Argent Protocol will finish her by the end of the month anyway. Nate and Renata lock eyes. A cold wave of dread washes over their victory. Argent Protocol. Arthur's reply is a low chuckle. One fire at a time, my boy, one fire at a time. Now about that stock option package you promised me. The conversation shifts, but Nate's mind is stuck. Argent. The word means silver, or it could refer to Argentina, or it could be a code name, a second bomb. They have spent all their energy disarming the bomb they could see, only to find out another one is hidden somewhere in the building, ticking away. The lunch meeting ends, the feed goes dead. They have won the battle, but the war is far from over. Renata's phone buzzes. She reads the text and looks at Nate, a small measure of relief on her face. My team is with Lily. The fever is high, but she's stable. They're taking care of everything. Nate nods, a fraction of the weight lifting from his shoulders, but it is immediately replaced by another. The Argent Protocol. Renata turns to him, her expression grim, all traces of her earlier victory gone. We baited the trap. Now we have less than 24 hours until the signing, she says, her voice low and intense. And we need to find out what the hell the Argent Protocol is before it blows up in our faces. The brief moment of relief in the room is a mirage, quickly evaporating to reveal the stark, terrifying landscape of a new threat. Argent, the word hangs in the air, a code name for their potential destruction. Start a search, Renata commands, her voice regaining its hard edge. Full network crawl, every document, every email, every financial report. I want anything and everything with the word Argent in it. Karen, patched in via speakerphone, immediately relays the order to the company's data security team. Nate, however, is already shaking his head, his mind racing in a different direction. It won't be here, he says, thinking aloud. Landon built this trap. The core of it won't be on your servers. It's an external attack. The word itself, it has to be a tell, something from his past. He closes his eyes, forcing himself back through the years, back to a time of shared ambition and eventual betrayal, back to a cramped office, whiteboards covered in equations, the frantic energy of creation. Landon had been obsessed with code names drawn from mythology and history, Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld, and Argent. The memory hits him like a lightning strike, so sharp and clear it makes him gasp. Argent, he breathes, his eyes snapping open. The Argent Project, it was our name for a predictive modeling algorithm I was designing. It was my life's work. He looks at Renata, the full, sickening weight of the betrayal hitting him all over again. It was the algorithm he stole the day he framed me. He didn't just build his company on my work. He's using it as a weapon to destroy yours. Evelyn looks grim. What does it do, this algorithm? It was designed to predict volatility, Nate explains, his voice low and intense. It analyzes millions of data points a second, market trends, news feeds, even social media sentiment to find patterns of instability before they happen. It was meant to be a shield, an early warning system. He pauses, the horrifying implication dawning on him. In Landon's hands, he could reverse it. Instead of predicting a fire, it could start one, a flash crash. He can use it to digitally assassinate your stock. A heavy silence falls over the room. The Cerberus trap was a legal maneuver, a brutal but understandable corporate attack. This is something else. This is a weapon of mass financial destruction, and it is aimed directly at the heart of Kensington Enterprises. How do we find it? Renata asks, her voice dangerously calm. We look for its shadow, Nate replies. He turns back to the laptop, his fingers a blur. He bypasses Kensington's internal network and opens a direct raw feed to the stock market's high-frequency trading data. It is a torrent of pure information, billions of transactions a second, a meaningless waterfall of noise to almost anyone else. But Nate knows what he is looking for. He is hunting for a ghost, his own. As Nate works, lost in the digital storm, Renata's phone buzzes. It is Dr. Alistair. She listens, her expression changing from tense to something softer, something Nate hasn't seen before. She ends the call and turns to him. That was the doctor, she says, her voice gentle. Nate's head snaps up, his heart in his throat. Lily is responding to the treatment. The fever is breaking, but more than that, they ran a full genetic panel. They think they've identified the specific enzyme deficiency causing her illness. Alistair says it's treatable, not just managed. Nate, treatable. There's a new gene therapy that has shown incredible results. Nate stares at her, unable to process the words. Treatable, a word he had given up on ever hearing. For years he'd been treading water, trying to keep Lily's head above the waves. Now this woman is telling him she could teach his daughter to fly. The immense, crushing weight he has carried on his shoulders for 6 years begins to dissolve, replaced by a hope so fierce it is painful. Renata, he starts, his voice cracking. I don't know what to say. Say we'll win, she says, her eyes blazing with a new personal fire. You save my company, I'll save your daughter, that's the deal. The promise hangs in the air, a sacred vow. It is all the fuel Nate needs. He turns back to the screen with a renewed, ferocious determination. He isn't just fighting for his name anymore, he is fighting for Lily's future. For 2 more hours he hunts. He filters out the noise, searching for the faintest of rhythms, the telltale signature of his own complex code. And then he finds it, a tiny, almost invisible pulse of high-frequency trades, all focused on Kensington stock. It is a parasite attached to the market, dormant but alive. It is the Argent protocol, waiting. I found it, he says, his voice grim. It's armed. Can we disable it? Evelyn asks. No, Nate says. It's too deep inside the global market architecture, but I can see the trigger. He follows the lines of code, his blood running colder with every discovery. The protocol isn't just a backup plan, it is the main event. He finally sees the whole terrifying picture, the elegant, brutal genius of Landon's plan. He leans back in his chair, a wave of nausea washing over him. He had been so focused on the trap in front of him, he hadn't seen the real one closing in from all sides. He turns to face Renata, his expression bleak. We've made a terrible mistake, he says, his voice hollow. The Cerberus deal, it was never the real trap, it was a distraction, a brilliant billion-dollar misdirection. Renata stares at him, confused. What are you talking about? We have them. No, Nate says, shaking his head. We don't. The Argent protocol is set to activate at the market close on Friday. It will trigger a catastrophic flash crash of your stock, but it's missing a final authorization key, a final piece of code to unlock its full power. He looks at her, the horrifying truth settling in. Landon doesn't care if we find the flaw in the Cerberus deal. He just needs you to sign it. The digital signature from the official signing of that contract, that's the final key. The Cerberus trap isn't the bomb. He takes a shaky breath. It's the detonator. The revelation hits the room like a shock wave, collapsing the structure of their carefully laid plan. Their victory is a phantom. Their brilliant countermove is, in fact, the final step in Landon's grand design. So we're trapped, Evelyn says, her voice grim, stating the obvious. If we sign, Argent activates and we're wiped out. If we don't sign, Landon initiates the hostile takeover, and with Arthur poisoning the board, he'll win. Checkmate. Renata stares at the wall-sized monitor, her face a mask of cold fury. Nate sees her hands clench at her sides. She is cornered, boxed in by the genius of her enemy. No, she says, her voice a low growl. I do not lose, not to him. She turns to Nate, her eyes blazing. There has to be a third option, an escape route. You built the engine of this weapon. Is there a flaw, a vulnerability? Is there any way to turn it off? Nate's mind is already there, sifting through a 6-year-old mountain of code that exists only in his memory. He had built the Argent algorithm to be perfect, a seamless piece of predictive logic, but he had also been paranoid. He'd learned early in his career that any system powerful enough to be a shield could also be a sword. Landon stole my code, Nate says slowly, his eyes unfocused as he accesses the archives of his mind. But he didn't understand its soul. He's a brilliant financier, but he's not a creator. He knows how to use it. He doesn't know the philosophy behind it. A memory sparks, a fragment of a late-night coding session fueled by pizza and a fear of his own creation. I built a fail-safe, a kill switch. Renata and Evelyn line in. What kind of kill switch? Evelyn asks. It's not a button you can press, Nate explains. It's a sequence, a specific nonsensical series of microtrades, a data string disguised as market activity. It's designed to look like a 1 in a trillion market anomaly, a pattern so illogical it would never occur naturally. If the algorithm detects that exact sequence, its core protocol is to interpret it as a catastrophic system failure and execute an immediate total shutdown. Hope, fragile but real, returns to the room. Can you execute it? Renata asks, her voice urgent. Nate's face falls. To do it, I need a terminal with direct ultra-low latency access to the market's central exchange server. And I need a broker who can execute a custom multi-art trade sequence in the final seconds before the market closes without filing a flight plan and tripping 100 regulatory alarms. We can't use Kensington's trading desk. Arthur and Landon would see it coming a mile away. They are so close, yet it is an impossible task. They need a ghost, a traitor who operates in the shadows. Nate's mind sifts through the wreckage of his past, through the faces of colleagues who had turned their backs on him, who had believed the lies. But there is one Marcus, his former junior analyst, a kid with a genius for market mechanics and an almost fanatical loyalty. Nate had cut ties with him completely to protect him from the fallout. He has no idea where he is now. Renata sees the flicker of a thought on his face. Who is it, Nate? His name is Marcus Cole, Nate says. He was the best I'd ever seen, but I haven't spoken to him in 6 years. He probably thinks I'm a criminal. Find him, Renata orders, already turning to her assistant on the intercom. Karen, I need a location on a Marcus Cole. Last known employer was a financial firm called Argent. No, that's not right. Just find him. Use every resource we have. 10 minutes later, Karen has an answer. Marcus Cole is now a senior partner at a small independent high-frequency trading firm, a boutique shop that specializes in exactly the kind of high-risk, high-speed trading Nate needs. Karen provides a personal cell number. Nate stares at the number on the screen. It feels like a lifetime away. This call is harder than facing down Renata, harder than confronting the ghost of Arthur. This is asking the one person whose respect he valued to believe in him again. He takes a deep breath and dials. The phone rings twice. A familiar voice, older now but still sharp, answers. This is Marcus. Marcus, Nate says, his own voice sounding foreign to him. It's Nate Rowe. The silence on the other end of the line is a physical thing, a wall of ice. Nate can hear Marcus breathing. Nate, Marcus finally says, his tone a mixture of shock and cold anger. After 6 years, what the hell do you want? I need your help, Nate says, pushing ahead before he can lose his nerve. It's Landon. He's doing it again, Marcus, but this time it's not just a single fund. He's about to crash a multi-billion-dollar company. He's weaponized the Argent algorithm. He hears Marcus take a sharp breath. Argent, I thought you destroyed that research. I should have, Nate says grimly. He stole it and he's integrated it into the market. I found a way to stop it, but I need to execute a trade sequence in the final seconds before market close tomorrow. I need your terminal. I need your help. You're asking me to risk my license, my company, everything based on a ghost story from a man who disappeared 6 years ago, Marcus says, his voice flat. Why the hell should I believe you? This is it, the moment of truth. Nate closes his eyes, picturing his friend. Because you were there, Marcus. You know what we were building, and you know deep down that I didn't do what they said I did. You know it was Landon. I'm asking you to trust what you knew then, not what you've heard since. Another long, agonizing silence. Nate's hope begins to fade. The coffee shop, Marcus says finally, his voice low. On Grand Street, the one we used to go to, 1 hour, you come alone. If I don't like what I hear, you walk away and you never call me again. The line goes dead. Nate looks at Renata, a wave of relief washing over him. I have a meeting. A new desperate three-pronged plan begins to form, their last stand against the ticking clock. Okay, Renata says, her mind already several steps ahead. Here's what happens now. The signing ceremony is at 2:00 p.m. tomorrow. I will go. I will sit across from Landon and Arthur, and I will stall for as long as humanly possible. Evelyn will be with me, ready to deploy our legal poison pill as an absolute last resort. She turns her intense gaze on Nate. You go meet your friend. You do whatever it takes to get him on our side. Tomorrow, while I'm facing them down, you will be in his office preparing to pull the kill switch. She walks over to him, her expression a mixture of desperation and unwavering trust. The fate of this entire company now rests on you and a 6-year-old ghost. The coffee shop on Grand Street is exactly as Nate remembers it, a small, cramped space smelling of burnt espresso and old books. Marcus is already there, sitting in a booth in the back, looking older, more tired, but with the same restless, intelligent energy in his eyes. He doesn't get up when Nate approaches. 6 years, Nate, Marcus says, his voice low, a mix of old hurt and raw curiosity. You vanished. The official story was fraud. I thought you were guilty. Nate slides into the booth. There is no time for a slow reconciliation. There is only the truth. He lays it all out, Landon's betrayal, the stolen algorithm, the frame-up, his daughter's illness, and the reason he had to disappear. He speaks of the impossible situation at Kensington Enterprises, of the 2 ticking bombs, Cerberus and Argent, and the single desperate chance they have to disarm them both. He holds nothing back. Marcus listens, his expression shifting from stony anger to disbelief, and finally to a dawning horrified understanding. He had worked with the Argent Code, he knew its power. He weaponized it, Marcus whispers, shaking his head. That son of a, I always knew there was something wrong with how he pushed you out, but I never imagined. I know I'm asking the impossible, Nate says, his voice raw with desperation, to risk everything on my word. The Nate I knew was the most honest man I ever met, Marcus says, his gaze firming with resolve. He looks at Nate, and for the first time in 6 years, someone sees the man he used to be, not the ghost he has become. He was also a mad genius who built a kill switch into his masterpiece. I'm in, let's go hunt a ghost. Friday, 2:00 p.m. The boardroom at Kensington Enterprises is a theater of corporate warfare. Sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the polished mahogany table where Renata sits, flanked by a stone-faced Evelyn Reed. Across from them sit Landon Valerius and Arthur Clemens, radiating an aura of triumphant victory. Lawyers and board members line the table. The air is thick with the scent of expensive cologne and impending doom. The documents are in order, Renata, Arthur says, his voice smooth and paternal. Shall we begin? Renata gives a tight, brilliant smile. Of course, Arthur, but a deal of this magnitude, one can't be too careful. I have a few final questions for legal regarding the indemnification clauses. She begins her performance, a masterclass in strategic delay, questioning every subsection, every footnote. Her voice is a perfect blend of professional diligence and barely concealed anxiety. Friday, 3:30 p.m. In the heart of the financial district, in Marcus Cole's high-tech trading office, the atmosphere is electric. Nate and Marcus stand before a bank of monitors, the screens alive with the frantic final-hour chaos of the market. The kill switch sequence is loaded. It consists of 17 separate sequential trades, a complex digital poem that has to be executed in a window of less than 3 seconds, just before the 4:00 p.m. closing bell. It's ready, Marcus says, his hands hovering over the keyboard. Once I start, I can't stop. You have to give the signal at the exact right moment, Nate. Nate's eyes are locked on a single screen showing the faint rhythmic signature of the Argent Protocol. It is still there, a predator waiting patiently for its signal. He thinks of Lily, safe at his apartment with Renata's medical team, her future hanging on these next few minutes. Friday, 3:58 p.m. Renata, that's enough, Landon snaps, his patience finally gone. He gestures to the contract. Sign it now or the hostile bid goes public in 2 minutes and your board will remove you before the market even closes. It's over. Arthur places a hand reassuringly on her arm. He's right, my dear, it's time. Renata looks from Landon's smug face to Arthur's false sympathy. She picks up the heavy gold-plated pen. Her hand trembles slightly as she lowers it to the signature line. The room holds its breath. At that exact moment across town, Nate's eyes widen. Now Marcus, hit it now. Marcus's fingers fly, a blur of motion. The 17 trades launch into the digital storm of the market. On the screen, Nate sees the kill switch sequence, the illogical, impossible pattern, register on the exchange. For one agonizing second, nothing happens. Then the rhythmic signature of the Argent Protocol flickers, distorts, and vanishes, a flat line. It's gone, Nate breathes, grabbing Marcus's shoulder. It's gone. Back in the boardroom, just as the tip of Renata's pen touches the paper, Landon's phone buzzes violently on the table. Then Arthur's, then every other board member's, a cascade of frantic alerts. Landon snatches his phone, his confident smile dissolving into a mask of pure uncomprehending horror as he stares at the screen. The trap has failed to spring. His own company stock is in a nosedive from a massive, inexplicable sell-off, the echo of the kill switch. He looks up from his phone, his eyes wide with disbelief, and meets Renata's gaze. She smiles, a slow, cold, triumphant smile, and gently places the pen back on the table. Her own phone buzzes with a single prearranged text from Nate. The ghost is gone. Gentlemen, Renata says, her voice ringing with absolute authority. She stands up, every eye in the room now fixed on her. Before we conclude, it seems a new piece of data has come to my attention. I believe you all should see it. She nods to Evelyn, who presses a button on a small remote. The massive screen behind them, which had been displaying the Kensington Enterprises logo, flickers to life. It shows a grainy covert video. It shows Arthur Clemens sitting in a dimly lit office, calmly plotting her demise with the man sitting right next to him. The room erupts. Arthur Clemens makes a small strangled noise and seems to shrink in his chair, a ruined man. Landon Valerius shoots to his feet, his face a grotesque mask of rage and defeat. "This is illegal, it's a fabrication," he roars. But it is too late. The doors to the boardroom open, and two uniformed security guards, followed by Ranada's head of security, step inside. They walk calmly, deliberately toward Landon and Arthur. The trap has been sprung, just not the one they had set. 1 month later, the Onyx Tower buzzes with a renewed sense of purpose. Landon Valerius and Arthur Clemens are buried under a mountain of federal indictments, their conspiracy exposed in spectacular fashion. Valerius Dynamics is imploding, and Kensington Enterprises under Ranada's now legendary leadership is stronger than ever. Nate Rowe is no longer a ghost. His name has been publicly cleared. The story of his framing and redemption is a quiet legend on Wall Street. He now walks the 81st floor not as a janitor, but as the new head of the company's risk strategy division. He stands by the window of his new spacious office, looking out at the city. The door opens behind him. "Daddy." He turns, a real unguarded smile spreading across his face. Lily runs into his arms, her cheeks rosy, her eyes bright with a healthy energy he hasn't seen in years. She is vibrant, she is cured. "Ready to go, sweet pea?" he asks, hugging her tight. "Ready," she says, her voice full of life. "Don't let me keep you." Renata Kensington stands in the doorway, a soft, genuine smile on her face. The alliance forged in crisis has softened into a deep, abiding friendship. "You earned your weekend, we both did," Nate says, his heart full of a gratitude so immense it almost overwhelms him. He looks at his daughter, then at the woman who had gambled everything on a ghost. He has his life back. He has his daughter's future back. He is no longer invisible. Sometimes the most valuable assets aren't on any balance sheet. They are the hidden talents we overlook, the quiet integrity we dismiss, and the courage to listen when a voice speaks the truth from the shadows. And sometimes the greatest risk yields the greatest reward, a second chance. And just like that, another story is over. I always wonder where you all are and what you're doing when you listen to these. If you feel like sharing, drop a comment and let me know. Are you on a long drive, working on something, or just winding down for the night? It's nice to picture the story finding a home with you wherever you are. If you'd like more stories like this one to keep you company on your journey, you know what to do. Hitting subscribe and that little bell means you'll always have another one waiting for you when you need it. A simple like helps others find a companion in these tales too. Thanks for letting me share this space and time with you. It really is a privilege. Until the next one, stay safe out there. The plan is audacious, a high-wire act with no safety net. It requires perfect execution and nerves of steel. "Here's how we do it," Nate says, taking charge. He lays out the scenario. He will draft a memo detailing a plausible but ultimately harmless flaw, a supposed conflict with a new obscure EU banking regulation that could delay the transfer of offshore funds. It will be a technical nightmare threatening to tie up the deal in red tape for months. Renata will then accidentally leave a printed copy of this memo on a table in the executive lounge, a place she knows Arthur walks through every afternoon.